This is the Local Real Estate Developer Podcast, where we share the stories of locals across the country who took that empty lot or that old building and turned it into something awesome that their community needs. I'm Kristi Kandel, and I've been a real estate developer my entire career. My co-host Raphael is a commercial broker, and together we're sharing the stories of locals making a huge impact on their communities. And what we've learned is you don't need millions in the bank or decades of experience to get started. You just need the confidence, tools, and the right people around you. This podcast is your chance to gain the confidence to get in the game, because real estate development isn't just for the insiders anymore. It's for people like you too. Welcome to the Local Real Estate Developer Podcast, where we share the stories of locals doing awesome projects in their communities. My name's Kristi Kandel. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm a real estate developer, an investor, and I teach locals how to become developers in their community. And unfortunately today, Raphael is not able to join us because he got caught in travel. But we are here today with an amazing guest who has an awesome story. And Dedria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So we like to start off the pod by giving a little bit of background on who you are, where you're at, and then we can dive into your first projects.
Yeah, so my name is Dedria Kolb. I'm the president of Ideal Ridge Ventures, which is a small development company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm in my third year of business because prior to doing real estate development, I worked as a corporate attorney for almost 14 years. And I was in that grind for a long time, probably longer than I should have been, and kind of reached a point where I was ready to do something that just really excited me, something that I thought was going to make an impact in the community, and something that I think really just tapped into a dream that I always had as a little kid, which was to build things and to build housing. So I took the plunge. I left my corporate job, launched Ideal Ridge Ventures. Our first project is a tiny home village. So we are really focused on kind of innovative housing solutions, sustainable solutions, affordable solutions, particularly ones that use, whether they're tiny homes on wheels or modular properties, is kind of where our focus is going to be. So really excited to be here and kind of chat with you a little bit more about the work that I'm doing here in North Carolina.
Love that. So I'm actually physically in North Carolina right now.
Shut up. Where are you?
I'm over in Durham.
Oh my gosh, I went to law school in Durham. My grandmother lives in Durham. Love Durham. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, I just realized, I'm like, wait, you're from here. I'm heading out later today to get back to Florida finally. I've been venturing the Midwest for the past month, and I'm ready to be warm again.
Yes.
So, corporate attorney turned real estate developer. I work with tons of attorneys, so I mean, there's tons of great skill sets that come from that. But one of the things that we find with people trying to get into development is that gap from wanting to do something and then taking action. Can you maybe speak a little bit to that, and what finally was that shift to go, hey, I'm giving up the golden handcuffs, I'm done with this corporate job? What got you to finally go, okay, let's do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think the first thing I'll say is a lot of times we get really scared to start over because we think we're starting over from scratch, and we think that we're jumping into a new world where we know absolutely nothing about anything, and how are we ever possibly going to learn? And there definitely is a learning curve, but anytime that you come from a career, a background, just a level of experience in whatever field you're in, like you're starting over with that already in your pocket. You already have that tool, you already have those skill sets, and you're just applying them in a very different way. And so for me, particularly because when I was in corporate, I bounced around to a lot of different groups in the legal department, and I supported a lot of different teams. Like I got really comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I got really comfortable with pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and trying to learn just as much as I could about whatever topic was at hand at that particular moment. And so I think if you, number one, are feeling the push or the call to do something different, especially if it's real estate related, know that, number one, you're not starting over from scratch. Whatever you have in your background, you can carry forth with you. And I promise there'll be an area and opportunity for you to apply it, because when we talk about real estate, especially real estate development, and because I'm like a one-woman show doing all of the things like sales, marketing, contracts, site prep, construction management, employee management, like all of those things, kind of fall within my wheelhouse. And they're not all my strengths, but I can pull from kind of areas of where I used to work in corporate and definitely use that to my advantage. The other thing that I will say is there's so many resources out there, like podcasts like this, other resources that you can find on YouTube, out on the internet, Chat GTP. I mean, AI is great. It's not the end all be all. It's not great, but it is, it's not, but it is great. And it is a great tool for people to start to learn and just to start asking questions and finding resources that they can then go and track down and learn more. And so this is just the perfect time, I think, for people to make those big life changes, is because there's so much information out there to support you. And like I said, you are never starting over from scratch. You are starting over from a place of experience that you can just carry forward and use in a different way.
That is so true. And so many times I hear people go, but I spent this much time in getting my career to this point, and now I'm starting at zero. You're not. You said that very well. Your baseline is not that. The skill sets that you have, because honestly, real estate development is all about relationships. Purely as in, if you can if you can project manage, problem solve, and manage relationships, you'll figure it out.
Exactly. And most of those are skills that people, like I said, you use in other jobs and other careers. And so it's just a matter of applying it to, what you're doing. There's a technical aspect of it, but like I said, to me, that's the easiest part, kind of reading up and learning the tech. It's all the stuff that you don't read in the textbooks. And that's the really, that's where you really kind of get your stripes. The trial and the errors and the big mistakes that you make along the way, but it's a part of the process.
Exactly. And no one does a project perfect. I've done this for 20 years and done hundreds of projects, and there are always it's going to be something new on every single project that you go, okay. Didn't know that before. Learned that one.
Learned it now. Yep.
That's awesome. So, okay, your first project, then let's get into that. So you go ahead and you take the leap. And then a lot of times when people do make that leap, we've had some guests talk about, did you build up a savings reserve? Did you have a consulting company that created income? Because we know development, to get to the point where you have a payout or any type of return, is years, potentially, depending on the size of the project. So maybe a little on how did you prepare yourself to do it? And then what was that first project?
Yeah, I think that was one thing I was not prepared for, is how much of a long game development is, because you were absolutely right. This is not a get rich quick scheme, at all.
Wait, we're not greedy rich developers just coming in and making all the money overnight?
Exactly. I want to sign up for that path. That's not the one that I'm on, though. But no, I mean, it's, so I did have a nice little nest egg of savings that I was able to tap into. When I did, take the leap and decided to leave, I cashed in a lot of my stock. So that was not just to kind of help me just with kind of day-to-day living expenses, but also to help put capital into the project. Fortunately, I'm married and I have a husband who has a job. And so he was bringing in income in at the time. But so, yeah, it was, I will say that when my decision to leave corporate kind of happened pretty fast, it was like a flash in the pan moment. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm ready to go. I sat on it for probably about 12 weeks. And then my mind was not changed. And then I left. And when I actually put in my notice to leave, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I was going to figure it out and say hey, if I'm going to leap, the universe is going to catch me. And it was really a leap of faith. But fortunately, like I said, I was, able to accumulate some savings that helped, as well as cash in some stock. But I think for people that are looking to do development, because it is such a long game, doing a lot of research. If you can find a partner to do your first deal with, that's always really great. Just find ways to network and get yourself into the industry to meet people. I'm a little bit of an anomaly. You can't tell me anything. You really can't. I have to learn the hard way each and every time. But it's how I am. And so my first project, I kind of jumped in head first. I really had no idea. I just had a dream that I wanted to have a tiny home community, and I was like, it's going to happen. And so it's one of those things where it's too dumb to fail, because you don't know what you don't know. And so I did. I jumped in. I actually found the listing. It was, I don't remember which website it was on, LoopNet or one of those, commercial websites. And it was positioned as a mobile home that was kind of ready for a new lease on life. And the seller actually was based out of New York, and he had operated a few tiny home villages. And so those two pieces of information my mind went, ooh, this could be really interesting and exciting. And so as soon as we found the listing, something in my gut said, this is it. We went out to see the property, absolutely fell in love with it. It was very peaceful, very, very quiet, but also close enough to, grocery stores and big box stores and restaurants, things that people kind of need and want to live near. That I thought it was just the perfect opportunity. And the fact that the seller had a little bit of experience in tiny homes, and that was something that I had an inclination of what I wanted to do. I just thought it was like, a match made in heaven. And so he did offer to kind of help a little bit along the way and kind of give me a little bit of advice and counsel as I needed it, which was great. But a lot of it was kind of hitting the ground running, figuring out kind of, all right, so if I want to build something, like what's the first step? And I knew it was talking to zoning and planning. Fortunately, in Rutherford County, which is where our development is, they were very open to the idea of having tiny homes on wheels, operating them as permanent residences. So that was just like great. I was like, check, check, check. Let's find these contractors. Let's get this site plan together and let's just get rolling. And that's what we did. And we bootstrapped most of the construction costs for our phase one ourselves. We did take out a mortgage to acquire the land. And with that, we also got a small line of credit, but a lot of the upfront capital just came from our pockets, because again, you're being viewed as a startup. Banks are like, what are you doing? Where are you doing it? And what type of product is this?
Yeah.
All of those things, all of those kind of what I call now false barriers to entry to get people, from getting into development. But I also understand, like everything has a risk tolerance and banks have their risks as well. And so we kind of just went all in. And I knew that there was a demand for tiny homes, because if you call up any tiny home community, pretty much in the country, they're going to have a wait list. And so I was like, I know there's people who want to live full time in a tiny home community. So what can I do to create an atmosphere of community, an atmosphere of inclusivity and belonging, to draw the people in that I want to draw in? And fortunately, we were able to do that. And so we were in construction for about 6 months. We opened our doors in like late July, early August of 2024. And by December, January timeframe, I had leased out all 10 of the lots that I had for phase one, which was pretty incredible. And so that gave me a lot of confidence that I was on the right path and that there actually was a market for what I was trying to do. And so now we are embarking on construction of phase two of Poplar Creek, where we are going to add an additional 20 home sites. And so when it's all said and done, we'll have 30 home sites with folks living in tiny homes on wheels and park model homes in our community.
Awesome. So how big is the property?
It's 10 acres.
Okay. And then did you, as you were going through different approvals and things, how did you structure that with the property owner? Did you have a purchase agreement that was like, hey, once we get our permits, then we'll go? Did you just buy it right away? How did that work?
So we went under contract, and then we had a very lengthy due diligence process, because one of the things that we were able to do to acquire the property, we did a 1031 exchange with another rental property that we had. And so we knew we were going to need some time to market and to sell that property before we could close on the land in Rutherford. So during all of that time, we were working with planning, getting our site drawings kind of completed, working with the engineers, getting everything that we needed in order to get that permit to start construction. And so by the time we closed on it, we had already obtained that, and we had already lined up ourselves, kind of put together the budget, and then had an idea for our time frame. And so things went pretty smoothly once we actually closed, because we had such a long period of due diligence while we were looking to sell another piece of property.
Yeah, and that's something we'll come across a lot, is that people go, they tend to think that it needs to be more like residential, and like 30, 45 days close, and then you figure it out. But when it comes to development, you can, like, whether you have a 1031 or if you just structure into the contract and say, hey, we need to get these approvals, or we need to work with, utility providers to do extensions, and you build that into where, yes, you are spending your dollars at risk during that time, but at least you aren't also holding the carrying cost and taxes and everything for owning that property too. As you work through that permit process. And then in your guys's, so do you get the sites already? You own the dirt, and then they bring in their own home, or do you guys build that too?
That's correct. So currently for Poplar Creek, that's what our model is. It's very similar to really like an RV park, except for These are tiny homes. So we provide septic, electricity hookups, water hookups. We provide internet, and then we've got common areas and amenities that we upkeep for the residents. And they bring their own tiny home on site. So our residents go out and they purchase their own home. We have a builder that we've worked with that we can recommend folks, that he's a local guy. He builds a great product for a really affordable price, but we wanted to make sure that people could live the way that they wanted to live, which means going out and finding the home that they wanted to find. And just like buying a car, when you buy a tiny home, I mean, it just kind of runs the gamut. You can kind of get one with top of the line finishes, or you can get one that's a little bit more of a base model, which again allows people who have different budgets and different price points to kind of come in and, still save a ton of money, because even on the higher end, like you can find a tiny home on wheels for like $115,000. The average single family home in my area is like $450,000. So it's still a huge savings. And so we wanted to make sure that we were attracting residents who could come in at different price points, get a home that they really did love, and then they're able to bring that on site. And so they own the home, they pay the taxes, all of the maintenance on it. Only thing they do is they do a lot lease from us for basically just the dirt and the infrastructure to support.
I love that concept for so many reasons, because you're giving flexibility to everyone, and then you as the owner operator, you've mitigated your risk as well, because then they're responsible for the home and anything that goes. So you've got the horizontal, and you're good.
Yeah, exactly. And that, was intentional, because again, this being our first development project, it's like we wanted to reduce our risk. We wanted to reduce kind of the upfront, money that we were going to have to put into the project. And so this kind of mitigated both of those things, while still kind of finding residents who were very appreciative that we were flexible to allow them to bring in their own. And so for several reasons, like it's worked out really well for us.
Yeah, wins across the board. Now, I know it couldn't have been, as you laid that out very nicely and very smooth. I'm assuming, knowing development, you had some challenges along the way, whether it's raising money, partnerships, permitting, construction. What were some things that came up that you're like, oh, interesting, I didn't know I'd have to do that? Or
yeah, so like so many things came up. The first thing is, tiny homes and the tiny home movement has been around for, over 10 years now. Like everyone has seen Tiny Home Nation, like they know what a tiny home is. And fortunately, we are in a place where we are seeing a lot more municipalities and, and governments viewing this as acceptable housing and long-term housing, not just, a cabin that you can kind of visit, a couple of times a year. So that's good. And like I said, Rutherford was really awesome to work with in the initial stages. That being said, there's still a lot of education up front, just to kind of talk to people about the type of products, like what is a tiny home? Like how are they constructed? How is a park model tiny home different than a tiny home on wheels? And so I constantly found myself doing a lot of education so that people could really understand like what our product was, what we were asking for. And, the challenges came because a lot of times with tiny homes, particularly, like you are in this gray area. It's kind of like it's not an RV, really, even though some of them are built to RV standards. Like they're not really RV. They're not meant to be driven around the country and just set up at a campground, but they're not real property. So like, well, what are they? And so a lot of challenges in the front end of just kind of having conversations with what it is we want to do to get buy-in and approval to actually do it. The other big challenge that we ran into that unfortunately is still an issue that we have not, found a way to resolve is with the post office. So originally we were told that we could get cluster box delivery to all of our residents, because they all have permanently assigned lot numbers. It's their legal address that's on their driver's license. They sign 12-month leases. And so, we thought we were going to be good to go, installed the cluster box, went to the post office with the diagram, thought we were going to be good to go. Nope, wait a minute. This is transient in nature because these aren't permanently affixed properties. And so they kind of pulled that back and said they're going to change our delivery to a single drop versus an individual drop. So that was a little bit of an adjustment and, communication that we had to have with the residents, but with what was going on. So kind of, again, falling into this legal gray area sometimes it's hard. The other issue that we ran into is that we hit rock when we were running our sewer lines. So that was fun. Fortunately, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But that definitely kind of added to the budget. As you know, rock and water, two things you don't ever want to hit when you're digging underground. And the water, we had the water issue on the other side for phase two because our soil was very soft over there. So again, rather than having rock to blow through, we had to bring rock in to kind of build up the road. So it's, items and there are times in the construction where things just kind of didn't happen according to plan or, in the time frame that we were hoping.
Hey, can we chat for a second? Since you're listening to this podcast, you're already thinking like a developer. You see the potential in your community, and you're ready to do more than just watch from the sidelines. That's exactly why we created the Local Developer Vault. It's a free resource full of tools, templates, and trainings to help you take action. And here's the best part. When you sign up, you'll also get access to our local real estate developer community. It's full of people just like you, who are making real things happen in their neighborhoods. So don't just listen to the stories. Become the next one that we spotlight on our show. The link in the show notes to unlock the vault and join our movement.
Getting one story when you talk to one person in this government office and then you call somebody else and you get a different story. So just being able to be flexible, adaptive, take the punches as you get them. At the end of the day, we are providing a housing solution for folks who otherwise wouldn't have one. And, if they have to have a single drop mail delivery, then I feel like that's, something that we can kind of figure out a way that's going to, help everyone and work for everyone. And it's not going to, ruin the entire project. But being able to pivot when you don't get great news, understanding kind of what your next step is, how to keep the project, rolling, even when you have these setbacks, I think is important in any type of job, but particularly in development. You got to have that grit and that resiliency to kind of push it through and to keep it going because you're gonna find something every time.
Yep. Resiliency, all of that. Yes, that will happen across any project that you do. And if you let any single one take you out, then you're going to be done. But you can have that moment. You can go, we had someone on and she's like, yeah, one time I just went and I yelled and I screamed in the forest. And then I came back and I rolled up my sleeves and said, let's go.
Let's go.
Sometimes you're going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so true. So, clearly we all know housing is an issue. What you're doing with tiny homes like that, you're not working inside of a box. You threw the box out. Now you're trying to help solve problems in different ways. So of course, other challenges are coming up, but you're creating those housing opportunities. So how have you seen that impact between your tenants and then maybe other people doing things in the community? How has that impacted the community so far?
I am so proud and impressed by the relationships that our residents have created with each other. I think there's a specific type of person who wants to live, a tiny life because, you're living in 400 square feet, maybe sometimes less. And so a lot of times you are going to want to spend more times outdoors. A lot of times you are going to, gardening in the community garden or having a grill out at the pavilion area. And so it was really important for us to have amenities on site where people could gather and build relationships. And I am just so inspired by the quality of relationships that our residents have built and cultivated. And that to me is like why I do what I do, because we really are helping people to find a place that just really feels like home. And it's a home that is the way that they want to live. It's not, again, they're not boxed into one thing or another. So that to me brings me a lot of joy to see that. And we hope to, obviously to replicate that when we open up for phase two. But I'm based in Charlotte. And so Rutherford is about an hour and a half away from where I am. Even though I'm born and raised a North Carolina girl, I lived in Raleigh, I lived in Charlotte, I've lived in the bigger areas. And so kind of going to these small towns, you never know what you're going to find. But I have just been so pleased with the contractors that we have been blessed to work with. We've definitely had some duds.
As you will.
We've had some folks we had to walk away from. But we've also had so many folks that have just been so accommodating, so easy to work with, welcoming us into the community and making it feel like home. I did not want to build in an area where I myself would not want to live or did not feel comfortable. And so having that and experiencing that in Rutherford has been great. And then, giving back to the vitalization of rural America is, kind of a part of the deal here. And so we're happy to be able to participate that even in, this small way with our community.
of that. And that's especially with the local contractors, that's something that is somewhat overlooked when we talk about local development, that I'm glad you brought up, because they live there and work there too. And for them to be able to help bring something to the community, sometimes in bigger cities, we're fighting for their attention. They're bidding multiple projects. You may or may not get a call back, and so you can actually build the relationship with the contractors and the builders, and then ultimately, whichever ones shake out at the end, they could be your go-to property management almost as you're doing that, to allow you to not be as close to the development, which is cool.
Exactly.
And then how did you guys go about finding your contractors? So just because that's a normal question people ask, they're like, well, okay, well, how do I find the people to do it? Do I just, what do I do?
I decided that I was going to kind of manage the construction myself. And so I ended up hiring subs. We didn't go with the general contractor for our build. And there are advantages and disadvantages to doing that. And we can talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
But
we know a lot of our first time developers, they will do that same thing. And so just kind of getting an understanding, okay, if you do that, here's what you'll encounter. You won't pay that premium, but
exactly. You're not paying that premium, but you don't know what you don't know. That's the first thing. It's like, you are telling me about running these water lines, and I trust you with my life because I don't know any different, again, there is an expertise and a tactical skill set that you do have to learn, and you can sometimes pay the price when you don't have that. It also is really flexed my muscles and project management and a construction timeline and putting together the Gantt charts and kind of all of that stuff and trying to figure out like who comes next and how do I keep people on track and how do I know when deposits are going to be due and just all of that stuff. I didn't have any fancy software that I was working from. It was a good old Google spreadsheet, and so I feel like I'm kind of paying my dues and I'm earning these stripes and kind of doing things what may be the hard way at first, but I'm doing it so that I can learn. And so I'm a little bit more experienced. I have, more credibility the next time that I want to do it. And I do want to hire a general contractor if I don't want to take that role on. And so I am just a little bit more informed. And so you do, and then I'm taking on like all of the risk as the developer and as the general contractor. And so that can't be understated. But finding contractors for us was not as difficult and challenging as I thought it was going to be. I have a friend who was born and raised in Rutherford. So I called him up, asked him if he had any recommendations for, local guys, since he knew the community really well. We found one contractor. He had a friend who led us to another contractor. So it was a lot of word of mouth, and a lot of, saying, hey, I got a guy. I met the guy. I liked him too, and we all got along really well. Learning how to communicate and stay on top of communication with subs is really, really important. Communicating what it is that I needed and what I expected, documenting that and making sure we were all on the same page. Fortunately, my legal background allowed me to be able to kind of write contracts and review contracts and all of that stuff. And so that part wasn't quite as unfamiliar or challenging. But, learning how and when to have difficult conversations when things aren't going according to plan, when things aren't staying on schedule, when all of a sudden, the budget is getting blown up because of, some unforeseen thing. But it's all a part of the learning process and it's all a part of the learning curve. So I don't regret it. And I'm actually in the process of studying for my GC's license now, just so that I can have it. And so we'll kind of see how that goes. I have a lot more work to do on the test.
Well, and depending on which market, I do have friends that will do that. And they're like, I'm building like all these townhomes. I might as well be the GC in this one. And it's like, yeah, if the barrier to getting that isn't crazy intense to get that, why not? If anything, you'll learn and know a few more things and nuances that helps you. And like you said, and you were figuring it out and having your spreadsheets and things, well, I bet phase 2 is going to go a heck of a lot better because of all the things that you've now learned.
Exactly. And again, going back to what we said at the beginning, carrying that experience forward and kind of, using it and just kind of continuing to build and build and build until you are, the expert that you want to be in your field or in your craft. And that just takes time. But, chipping away at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you were going through this project, what types of partnerships kind of helped you, and whether they were involved in the deal or a mentor or whatever, what types of partnerships helped you with this one?
So, like I said, we did get a mortgage to acquire the land, but we financed a lot of it ourselves. We didn't choose to take on any type of outside investors because we didn't know what the heck we were doing, whether it was going to actually work. And I don't like playing with my own money, much less other people's money, at least, you know.
Facts.
So from that perspective, you know, it was just kind of us in the bank getting things going. I do have some friends who have family who are in development, and so I was able to kind of have some conversations and, you know, find some folks who could kind of mentor me, and I could call up and say, hey, I've got a question about this, or hey, can you look at this pro forma? Does this look right? Like, what am I missing? So someone who could just kind of serve as a check and balance, if I could check in with them every now and then to kind of let them know what I have going on, and get their feedback. That was very, very, very helpful. You know, being in the tiny home space, I was able to meet a lot of people who were kind of very active in tiny home communities, and just the tiny home industry. And so getting with them and kind of getting online and on Instagram and kind of announcing our development and our community to the world really allowed me to build some friendships with some women and people kind of in this industry that have really helped me along the way, and to spread the word to get out, you know, that, hey, this new tiny home village is opening up, and they're looking for residents. And so that was crucial for the marketing of Poplar Creek. And then meeting just people who like have a dream and have a vision to do something and are starting an entrepreneurship journey, even if it's not in real estate, has been super beneficial too, because, you know, working in corporate versus working for yourself, totally different. It's totally different. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but you become accountable for everything, you know, that you do. And you know, it's easy to kind of feel that pressure to perform and to do well and to execute, but it also can be very, very lonely when you're doing it alone. And so I have been fortunate to kind of find women who, again, aren't necessarily doing real estate, but are on their own entrepreneurial journey. And we can kind of, you know, share stories from the field as to kind of what's going on, and then just be there to provide support for one another, which is just really invaluable.
So true. Yeah, there was a meme that was going around, and it was like, so as an entrepreneur, to your non-entrepreneur friends, when they ask you, "Hey, how's your day or week been?" Like, do you then tell them everything that just went, or do you go, "Not too bad," and
All
yeah,
right.
you just kind of go, "It's okay." Whereas to one of my friends, actually over in Aiken, South Carolina, she and I have been talking recently, and we're just like, because some stuff is just going sideways in certain areas, and it's just like, but we get it. And having that
Mm-hmm.
support system and that network to go, hey, yeah, you're in it. You're in it right now. And guess what? There are times when I am in it, and you know, just this is part of it. This is
Yeah.
part of the entrepreneurial roller coaster, that it is not always unicorns and rainbows, and it is not always the bottom of the barrel either. And it's
Mm-hmm.
we become very unemployable, and we have to remind ourselves that this is a great gift that we have to be able to pursue things that we want to pursue even during the really challenging times.
Yes.
So that being said, you have a great support system to go to. What else do you use to stay motivated? You get hit with, oh my gosh, we have this rock to blow through, we've now blown our budget, our timeline, our schedule. How do we figure it out? What are your go-to um tools or things that you do just to go, okay, this is worth it, just keep swimming?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I have a vision in mind as to how I want my life to look, to feel, and how I want to experience it. And I also have a vision in mind of the impact that I hope to have through the work that I do. And that's what I focus on. Like, I focus on that, you know, even though I'm doing a million different things, right now I'm trying to, you know, teach myself online marketing, because marketing and sales, you know, it's a part of development. You got to find those residents, got to find those people from somewhere. In any business, you know, marketing and sales is huge. And so you know, trying to learn all of these new skill sets and kind of teach myself how to build websites, which I did for our very first website, which was terrible, but hey, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Hey, we all start somewhere.
You
We
got to
all
start
start doing it.
somewhere. You got to start somewhere. You know, and so I'm learning these new skills, and I'm kind of doing things, and I remind myself that, like, I am building something that is truly mine, and that, it's an expression of myself, and it's an expression of the legacy that I want to leave. And to me, like, that's so important, and it's so much more rewarding and fulfilling than previously when I was, doing other things. So that's what I get to focus on. I get to focus on the fact that I get to do this. Like, I am so blessed that I get to, wake up, and every day is going to look a little bit different. Some days are going to go according to plan. Some days aren't going to go according to plan. But then some days I get to say, you know what? I'm going to go to the park, and I'm going to walk my dog, and I'm just going to have a beautiful day outside. Or I'm going to chaperone my daughter's field trip when they go to, the museum. Or I'm going to do some other creative venture, like make jewelry or paint or whatever. Like, I get to decide how I get to spend my days and my time, and having that freedom and flexibility, like, I wouldn't trade that for the world either. And so I get to do the work that I'm doing. And even though it's challenging, even though sometimes I do not know what I am doing, and I'm still very much trying to figure it all out, I get to do this. And it's just so rewarding and fulfilling to do it.
I love that. And you nailed it. What we've found too, if your why and your vision are strong enough, that's going to push you through everything. And the way you describe what you wanted your life to look like, an impact you want to make, when it becomes bigger than us,
Mm-hmm.
it helps give perspective to go, yeah, this is worth pushing through. This is for your family, for your community, for everyone. And it's like, yeah, this is worth the pain. I signed up for this hard. I signed up for this type of hard to go do it. So, all right, let's go.
Exactly. Choose your hard. And once you do, and you are aligned with kind of the mission that you are birthing into the world, it makes it so much easier. And, I didn't mention that I'm motivated by money, because you can't be. Like you said, it's such a long game in order to do this. I mean, like, eventually all of this is going to pay off. Like, that's why I hope my fingers are crossed. But you can't go into it, thinking that you're only doing it, to earn. It's definitely not going to be a quick buck. It's it's going to be a hard earned buck, and it's going to be, one that you value and you appreciate for kind of all that had to go into it. But you have to be motivated by something else, or for anything, I think, that you do in life.
Yeah, I think if you're just motivated for money, like you said, for anything in life, when it gets hard, you're going to quit.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets hard, you're going to just go, okay, maybe not. If you're in it for money, maybe you're trying to raise capital, and then you're not a good steward of somebody else's money, which I'm terrified to lose anyone else's money. So, like, it's like, no, you need to be very cognizant of that too. So yeah, it's money is definitely not the main reason. Yes, it comes in over time. It's the long game, building wealth in the long game. And yeah, a decade from now, you look back and be like, I made really smart real estate decisions, and getting in development, this was great. Oh, this is the reward that I worked my butt off for. Yeah, then you're that overnight success.
Exactly. 10 years in the making.
Yeah, exactly. So you've dropped a ton of nuggets already. Do you have any other specific advice for someone who's on the fence, or maybe neck deep in their first project, wondering what the heck they got into, or just anything that you'd like to share with new developers?
I find that there are so many people out there that are so generous with their time, and so generous with their expertise, and, reach out to people, make connections. Like you said, real estate development is all about relationships. It's about, not just relationships with planning and city council or county commission, not just relationships with your subs or your residents, but the relationships with kind of people that are on this journey. And so I would encourage folks to, not hesitate to reach out and to say, hey, what you're doing really inspires me. Can we have a few minutes to kind of chat about it? Like, I've done that for people who I wanted to talk to. People have done that for me. And so create that network if you don't already have one, I think is one piece of advice that I would give aspiring developers. Just continue to dream really, really big. I think that, myself included, we find ways to say, well, we can't do something. Well, that's going to be really, where am I going to get all that capital from? It's going to be really expensive. Where am I going to, find the right partners? Where am I? Like, it's so easy to come up with all of the negatives and all of the why something can't happen. Like, we need to spend even more energy thinking about just the dreams that are even bigger than we could ever believe that we can accomplish. And that's where we really start to push ourselves on into that next level. And so when it gets hard, find people in your network to support you, keep going, have that North Star that's guiding you along the way, and just really believe in what it is that you want to birth into the world and the impact that you want. And I think that things will start to kind of align and fall into place, and the right people will show up and the right opportunities will come around. And before you know it, you will have created something that is even bigger and better than you could have imagined. Just got to keep working at it, or be smart about it. Don't bite off more than you can chew, but definitely don't be scared to do something big, because I think we all can accomplish so much more than we give ourselves credit.
Yeah, so many times we'll think about what could go wrong, and we think about all the incredibly negative sides, and then but very rarely do we go, okay, if this goes right, what if this goes
Mm-hmm.
really well?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
what could that be? And yes, you're going to mitigate your risks. You're going to make sure you're doing smart deals, but just thinking about, hey, how awesome could this be? And to me, honestly, I go, if it impacts one life, then it
yeah,
was worth it.
yeah,
And it's going to impact way more than that. But if it just
yeah.
impacts one life, wasn't that worth it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. We've kind of gotten skewed into, like, with the social media being everywhere and the influencers with millions of followers. Like, we have gotten ourselves, like, into this false sense that, like, if hundreds of thousands of people aren't showing up and applauding us, like, we're doing
Right,
something wrong. And it's like,
right.
no, like, that's not, like, it's the one-on-one connections that really kind of keep us going as humans. Like, we need that, we crave that, and our impact is so great. We just have to recognize it, and we have to, again, it just takes one person who's going to impact another person who's going to, like, and it's the domino and the ripple effect of the work that we have. And so yeah, I totally agree.
Love that. All right. So take me out 5, 10 years from now. You've got this project stabilized. You've got the phases done. What's the down the road look like for you? What's that big vision and dream and goal that you want to get towards?
So the big goal and vision that I want to get towards, in addition to kind of continuing to do projects that, like I said, kind of have that focus of community, sustainability, and affordability, some of them will continue to be tiny home projects. Some of them will be, your traditional stick built, real property and real construction. Some of it may be even in the hospitality space. So my desire is to kind of find projects that really speak to me and that kind of serve a need in the community where I want to build. But also a big focus of mine, particularly these last few months, has been trying to connect with other women who want to get into development, but yet don't know how. And so I've started doing a little coaching and consulting. I launched my first group coaching program with women who want to learn how to do tiny home developments. Because there's a lot of us that are out there. They're like, I love tiny homes. I want to do something like this. And so again, helping to be the guide for women who are looking to do something similar to what I have done, which is radically take control of your life, build wealth and equity through real estate, and create something that's going to make a sustainable impact, lowering that barrier to entry and inviting more women to the development table. And, letting them know that here's the tactical aspects of actually how to do a development project. So let's talk about all that. How can we support one another? And then how can we create a community so that we are encouraging each other to continue to do this work? And so that's something that I want to continue to focus on, because I think we need more women developers out there. And so I'm looking to invite as many as I can to the table, so that I can learn from them just as much as they would learn from me.
Love that. I love that. The more that we can, go from an abundance mindset and get more people in and teaching and going. I mean, we have over 16,000 communities in the United States that have less than 10,000 people in them. You can be a contributor who does some awesome things in your community. You don't have to do it in the big cities. You don't have to,
Exactly.
but you can do it in your own backyard, or the town an hour and a half away. So I love that you're helping remove the gatekeeping, remove the
Mm-hmm.
barriers to get more people in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how can people, if they're interested in whether it's joining your group with women or learn about tiny homes, how can they engage with you on the platforms, reach out to you for coaching?
Yeah, so you can follow us. My personal Instagram, you can follow me there, where I post a lot about kind of development, and then also like the personal and the coaching stuff that I do. Poplar Creek NC is the name of the Poplar Creek handle, so you can follow us there. But most importantly, my website, www.idealridgeventures, has all of the information on the communities that we're working on, the courses and the programs that we're doing, and the consulting work that I do. And so all of that can be found on that website.
that. And is there anything else that we should have asked you that you'd like to share with our audience about development, life, business, anything?
I don't, we covered so much, it seems. I don't know if there's any one thing. Again, I think it kind of goes back to, I truly, 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 truly believe that if you have a dream and a desire to do something in life and something keeps nudging at you, it's like, I really want to do this, or this keeps coming up, then that is the nudge, that is the inclination, like that is the desire that you follow. And again, it doesn't mean that you quit your job and you go all in and you start developing a project, the first time that, this kind of comes to mind. But it does mean that like we already know the path that we want to take. And the only thing that we have to do is take one step and then the next step and then the next step, and then we'll get there.
Yep. And then the path will start to appear, and it'll take detours and curves along the way that you don't anticipate, but the ending is, yeah, I've had it happen too many times. I started my own company in 2015, and the more I let the universe guide the way and be like, I'm going to put in all the effort and the work, but then to see where it went versus what I thought it would be when I started, I'm like, oh,
right.
Now every new venture I start, I go, okay, here's my bigger picture mission and purpose and goal. Like with local developers, it's how do we get more people in doing it? Maybe we become the bigger pockets, but of local development, to where we can connect people to where we go, we're not in this alone. We can
Yeah,
do this. And who knows what amazing things are going to come from all the awesome
exactly.
people that we get to meet and connect with and work with across the country. Like I say all the time, my favorite part of the week is recording the pods and meeting awesome people like you, to where I go, I'm inspired. Like, yeah, let's go.
Let's
Like,
do
I'm
it.
fired up. Let's roll. So, well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll make sure we share all of your details in the show notes, and we'll get that included there. And to our audience, if you can like and subscribe, we're on all the platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. The more that you like, subscribe, comment, share, it helps get this out there so we can meet more people and really pull this together and help transform our communities with an awesome grassroots movement. So,
Yeah.
and we do plan on doing a meetup this year in Q3, probably in Louisville, where Raphael is at. So we will have more details coming, but enough people have said, hey, let's get together, and it's not going to be this like huge blowout conference, but it will be a way. Let's just do one. Let's
Oh, I
host
love
one. Let's
that.
have it there. Get awesome people in the room, and then I'm sure it'll grow and percolate from there. But
Oh, I love that. Send me the details. I'm
yeah.
100% there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how cool is that? Like, let's grab dinner, let's walk the projects, and let's see the local developers there, and let's figure out, what do we want this to be next year? How do we want to grow this and do this together? So awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This is the Local Real Estate Developer Podcast, where we share stories of awesome locals doing great things in their community. So take care.
Thank you.